Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this class. This is 5 p.m. and it's time for class. So we are just going to give 5 more minutes for everyone to join in as we are aware our facilitator is already in class. So please, let's inform our party members to join into class so we won't miss out. I believe this should be one of the most important parts of our process, which is political parties. So Mr. Ibiang is here to put us through all of that. So we won't have one excuse or the other while working through our party structures. So please inform your party members to join into class. So we are going to give 5 more minutes. We'll join back by 5:05. Thank you. All right, so good evening again, everyone. We are just going to start quickly since our facilitator is here. We won't have to keep him waiting. So I would read the bio of our facilitator, Mr. Ibiang Vivinus. Please listen attentively. And if you have your questions, you can put them in the chat box or raise your hands once the lectures are over. So Mr. Ibiang Vivinus is currently a public health and biosafety expert and a professional in politics with over 19 years working in the social sector to strengthen institutional reforms that can lead to social change. He has led several students, youth movements, and have been involved in human rights advocacy. He was a former FCT interim chairman of Alliance for New Nigeria Party, ANN, and it was under his leadership that the party built the structures at the local government and ward levels before his ascension to the office of the national vice chairman of the party for the South-South zone after the national convention in 2018. In his capacity, he served in several committees, prominent amongst which is the Security Committee, which he chaired, the Partnership Committee with other parties for the general election in 2019. He was also a member of the National Campaign Council of the party and served as the South-South Zonal Director and Chairman of the National Campaign. Ibiang is a graduate of the University of Calabar and holds several certifications in his chosen field. He holds, in addition, a Master's in Business Administration from Ahmadu Bello University and is currently a PhD candidate in International Public Health. So, ladies and gentlemen, our facilitator for today's class, Mr. Ibiang Venus. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. Please confirm you can hear me.
Good evening, sir. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Um, Once again, it's my pleasure to be with us this evening on this very unique occasion of cohort 19 literacy class. I'm going to speak to us on political parties and structure, and I will start with a brief history, just so that we're able to situate political parties within the context of Nigerian political space. Let me at this juncture appreciate the Executive Director and leadership of the Electoral College Nigeria for the unique opportunity to bring to us this very important subject. I do not take this for granted, and that's why I have come and early enough to be part of this program. Having said that, as a background, political parties are very fundamental to every democratic process. And indeed, you cannot have a viral democracy without political parties. Democracy, of course, as we all know, is a form of government, whose definition has become some sort of cliche today. And that's not new to any one of us here. It's instructive to know that political parties are platforms through which power is canvassed, contested, and of course, in every democratic uh, governance. And the history of political parties in Nigeria goes as far back as, during the colonial era, the time that Nigeria was governed by uh, the colonial masters. And interestingly, certain things happened at that time. One of Nigeria's foremost nationalists in the person of Herbert Macaulay, the grandson of Bishop Ajayi Crowther, formed the first ever political party in Nigeria, which of course was titled Nigerian National Democratic Party in 1922. Now, here are some historical facts about political parties. The development of political parties in Nigeria dates back to 1922. Like I said, when the Nigerian National Democratic Party was launched. And then we had the establishment of the Nigerian Legislative Council, basically to provide some political space and platform for indigenous participation in the governance of the affairs of Nigeria. And at this time, we had franchise limited to two major cities at the time, Lagos and Calabar. When we will be talking about history of constitutional development in Nigeria, we'll be dealing with why we had just Lagos and Calabar, given their very unique status at the time. Now, we had a more vigorous process of party formation, initiated with the formation of the Nigerian Youth Movement in 1938, and then came the National Council of Nigeria and Cameroons in 1944, still under the leadership of Herbert Macaulay. And then we had the likes of the Action Group, which came up in 1948, the Northern People's Congress in 1951. Now, looking at these parties, they constituted themselves into more of ethno-regional associations or representation. For instance, the Action Group was evolved from the West, from what we call the Yoruba Cultural Association, the Egbe Omo Odudua. And the Northern People's Congress evolved from the Northern Cultural Association called the Jamia Mutanen Arewa. And we had the National Congress of Nigerian Citizens. Now you will notice that we had originally the Council for Nigerian and Cameroon, and then later on we had the National Congress of Nigerian Citizens because of certain realignment that were taking place at the time. And then, of course, NCNC later narrowed its social base to a cultural association, the Igbo State Union of the Southeast. Now, these ethno-regional elite blocs struggled against each other in configuring the politics of the First Republic as a contest for hegemony by the elites of the major ethnic formations, which of course I had mentioned, the Hausa Fulani, the Yoruba, and of course the Igbo groups. They formed the major blocs at the time. But of course, the fact that we had these major blocs doesn't mean that we didn't have other minority groups. There were other minority groups, and when we'll be dealing with the history of constitutional evolution, we'll talk about what certain developments around some of these minority groups, which of course led to the establishment of some commission titled the Willings Commission to look at the issues of minority. But like I said, we'll be dealing with that in details later on. So during the of course, where you have political powers contesting for power, one of the things that is very characteristic of that kind of setting is the issue of power sharing. Because as they contest against each other, you find you have a situation where each political party or ethno-regional reflections grab power within their region. So that's how power was shared among the political parties. So in the 1959 elections, it happened that no single party was able to win the majority of votes to lead at the center. So the NPC, the Northern People's Congress, decided to join forces with the NCNC to form the national government at the time. Now, this saw the emergence of Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa as the prime minister and Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe as the governor general on independence in 1960. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe later became the first president of Nigeria when Nigeria became a republic in 1963, while Tafawa Balewa maintained this position as, prime minister. And of course, in the succeeding year, following elections, there was massive electoral fraud in the 1964 and 1965 elections, which of course precipitated a political crisis that led to the collapse of the First Republic. Quite obviously, this clearly shows that the issues of irregularities in our electoral process dates as far back as the First Republic. And so it's not something that it doesn't seem like something that is going to go away easily. But let's see. Now, the dissatisfaction in the system led to the splitting of NCNC and Northern People's Congress. And subsequently, there were some realignments of these political parties as a result of the disagreement that occasioned them. And what we had was NCNC joining forces with a faction of the Action Group, which was led by the sage, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, to form what we call the United Progressive Grand Alliance, UPGA. Whereas the Northern People's Congress, on the other hand, joined forces with the remaining faction of NPC, of Action Group, led by Samuel Ladoke Akintola, to form the Nigerian National Democratic Party, NNDP. Now, what happened thereafter was, of course, unprecedented, because we had the Civil War, which broke out following the coups and counter coups that that took place, and this all led to the collapse of that First Republic. So we had the Civil War, which uh, began in 1967 down to 1970. So this, of course, have styled the blackout within our Nigerian political history. Now, there were political developments that came up in a period we call the Second Republic. And in the run-up to the Second Republic, we had 150 parties that were announced. 50 of them were fully constituted as political parties ready to go, with only 18 that felt they had any chance of meeting the imposed conditions and submitted their applications to the then Electoral Commission. However, the states, that is the Nigerian states, recognized only 5 of these political parties in 1978. And these 5 recognized political parties were National Party of Nigeria, NPN. We had the Unity Party of Nigeria, UPN, the MPN, Nigerian People's Party, NPP. We had the People's Redemption Party, PRP, and of course, we had the Great Nigerian People's Party. Now, we had a Constituent Assembly, which was set up to midwife the 1979 Constitution. And that Constitution, the 1979 Constitution, of course, did not make provision for independent candidates in the elections that were to come. Now, one dominant political party emerged from the transition process in 1978, and that was the National Party of Nigeria, NPN, with roots in the regional politics of the First Republic. Of course, we had that the political parties clearly reflects the character, the broad character of the political parties that existed in the First Republic. The founding fathers of the NPN systematically waxed a coalition from the segmented and disparate fractions that constituted the Nigerian political class. And we had several efforts, again, to build a party, a hegemonic party, even though that did not happen, because the whole idea, just like what we're having today, some sort of consolidation going on to have one party that is stronger than any other. And but this didn't happen in the Second Republic. Now, the 1979 elections revealed that the political parties retained strong regional bases and ended up again sharing the votes without any of them completely dominating the other. So the contest was actually very keen, and ideological politics was, of course, very strong, with parties like PRP, and which was an offshoot of NEPU, Northern Element Progressive Union, and the Unity Party of Nigeria, which was an offshoot of the Action Group. So both parties were said to be on the left, while the other 3 parties were on the right. So we had the Second Republic from 1979 to 1983, and then we had the elections that followed, which was, of course, which were truncated as a result of the military coup led by General Muhammadu Buhari, may he so rest in peace. And he ruled from that late 1983 to 1985, was toppled. His government was toppled by the then chief of army staff, in the person of General Ibrahim Badamosi Babangida, who then ruled from 1985 to 1993 when he left office. So that was how the Second Republic was, collapsed because of that coup. And then, of course, we had the developments leading to the Third Republic, which was, of course, between 1992 to 1993, when the political space was then opened to commence the process of transition into a new civilian and elected government. And then we had the Third Republican Constitution was drafted in 1989. The establishment of new political parties followed, which were later banned. And then government then established two political parties, the Social Democratic Party, SDP, and which was, of course, considered to be slightly to the left. And we had the National Republican Convention, which was considered to be slightly to the right. The issue of slightly to the left and slightly to the right is a function of ideology, and I will explain that in the subsequent slide. So when elections were held in 1993, Chief Moshir Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, MKO Abiola, as he was fondly known, of the Social Democratic Party, won the popular election in 1993, what we call the June 12th elections of 1993. It was a very interesting period for us as a country. For some of us, it was an opportunity to exercise our franchise for the first time. And we saw that election scuttled by the state. And so certain things happened. When that elections were nullified by the government of General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, there was massive unrest in the country. There was, protests from every part of the country as to why the elections, considered to be free and fair and credible, were annulled by the government of Ibrahim Badamosi Babangida. And at this time, he himself was under some sort of pressure, to do the needful. And what he did was to tactically withdraw from governance, because he pulled out of the military and, stepped aside from governance. And that was after he had constituted something that was foreign, an alien to our constitution, called the interim national government. It was more like a caretaker kind of thing, headed by Pa Ernest Shonokon, a foremost nationalist and a patriot. So Ernest Shonokon was drafted in as the head of the interim national government. And that government had the most ranking military officer at the time, sitting in that government as the Secretary of Defense, in the person of General Sani Abacha. Now, as a result of the massive unrest, protest against the interim national government because it was alien to our constitution, all of the illegalities, there was so much unrest, there was instability everywhere. Nigeria was in a state of, political imbroglio. There were civil litigations against the interim national government. As a result of all of this, General Sani Abacha stepped in a palace coup, and overthrew Paine Shonokon, and took over the reins of government and became the head of state of Nigeria. That was again how the Third Republic was truncated, and we had again a military rule. And General Sani Abacha ruled Nigeria down till 1998, when he suddenly passed on to the great beyond. And as a result of his death, We had the then Chief of Defense Staff in the person of General um, Abubakar, who became the Abdusalami Abubakar General, who became the head of state after some consultation with some of Nigeria's ruling elites. He became the head of state and started midwifing a new constitution and a transition program that gave birth to what we call the Fourth Republic. So today, we are still in the Fourth Republic because we have not had any coup, but we have had successful change in governance through elections from General Sani, Olusegun Obasanjo down to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu today. So when Abdulsalami came on board, he midwifed the what we now call the 1999 Constitution, and um, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo became the president following the elections that followed in 1999. And he ruled for 8 years, together with Atiku Abubakar, who was the vice president, and then handed over to Shehu Musa Yaradua, who later died in office, may so rest in peace, and then succeeded by his VP, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. After completing his tenure, he contested in 2011 and won, and ruled for just one term till 2014. And then in 2015 elections, uh, uh, General Muhammadu Buhari won elections in 2015 and became the president, ruled for 8 years, and now we have Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Anyway, but that's just the transition that Nigeria have had without any military incursion. So the Fourth Republic. The Fourth Republic was initiated through the 1999 Constitution, as I've mentioned, for its first elections. The Independent National Electoral Commission recognized only three political parties at the time: the PDP, the All People's Party, and of course, the Action for Democracy. And following Supreme Court judgment, as a result of some litigations that were filed against INEC for restricting the registration of political parties, the Nigerian political space was further liberalized, and we had more political parties registered at the time. So many small parties took advantage of the liberalization of the political space to get registered. And a lot of them actually proved to be unviable, but were more like vehicles through which they were accessing funds from the federal government, because at the time, government through INEC was providing some sort of grants to political parties. So some of the many political parties, what we call mushroom political parties or briefcase political parties, were existing solely for the purpose of accessing those funds. So we had all of those history, and then we had the situations where INEC had to deregister some political parties because, like I said, they were not viable. Many of them were unable to win any seats, not at the national, not at the state, and definitely not at the local government level. So as a result, INEC had to deregister these political parties. Now, the political space. The Nigerian political landscape and system is made up of substantial number of critical stakeholders. And who are these stakeholders? One, we have politicians, we have political parties, we have political movements. These are, of course, body of uh, people with certain ideologies, but which have not become political parties yet. And then we had the electoral systems, the umpires, the anti-corruption crusaders. We have the electorates, of course. We have also the judiciary, legislature, the executive, traditional institutions, pressure groups, civil society organizations. We have situation rooms set up specifically to monitor electoral, processes. And of course, we have other group of professionals who venture into politics and who have styled themselves as technicians, basically to help deepen our political culture and form the political structure via which governance is served. Now, what are political parties? In all that we've said, you clearly agree with me that a political party is defined as an organized group of people with at least roughly similar political aims and opinions that seek to influence public policy by getting its candidates elected to public office. That's basically what political parties are. And it's instructive to know that political parties are deeply and durably entrenched in our specific substructures in the society. What do I mean? Now, for us to have an enduring and sustainable democracy, political parties must be firmly rooted, not just exists in paper and in the air, but must be firmly rooted down to our local communities. That's talking about the substructures. Political parties link governmental institutions to the elements of civil society in a free and fair society. What that means is that political parties embody policies, embody opinion, policies, okay, and perspective of both civil society and all of the stakeholders that we have within the political space. And they syndicate all of these opinions, perspectives, and put them in the form of policy directions by which the government of the day can actually run. And thirdly, they are necessary for the functioning of any modern democratic political system. Like I said, they are a critical, vehicle in our democracy. There is no how you can have an enduring democracy without having a political party. So political parties must be well entrenched. However, I'm sure some of us may already be thinking, why then do we not have viable political parties as of today? I mean, I'm glad that we could ask that question because we are all part of the current happenings in the country today and can actually foretell why that is the case. And that's why, of course, we are having this politeracy class so that we have this understanding. We get to know that it's important for us to have, political parties well entrenched within our substructure. Now, there are types of political parties. We have single party systems like we have in China. We have two-party systems like we have in the United States, where you have the Democratic Party and, of course, the Republican Party. But in places like Germany and Nigeria, we have what we call the multi-party system. Today, I don't know if we have multi-party system in Nigeria because it looks like we are tilting towards a one-party system, as it were. So earlier I talked about a little to the left and a little to the right, and I've tried to use this political spectrum to actually explain what I meant by a little to the left and a little to the right. So if you look at this spectrum, it shows two arrows, one going to the left and the other going to the right. So anytime we say a political party is to the left, what we are saying is that we are referring to political party that is from the center to the far left. And these are usually political parties that are, liberal in approach. For instance, the Democratic Party in the US, it's a leftist party because their political ideology is founded on liberalism, social equality, and all of that. But the rightist party, like the Republican Party, are those parties that believes in party supremacy, hierarchy, issues around hierarchy, structure, in terms of political governance. So that's why we always refer to some political party based on the ideology by which they are established to be either leftists or rightists based on what they believe in. Okay, do they believe in social equality? Do they believe in, some sort of egalitarian society that is not in existence? Just things like that. So that's basically what we mean. And so you have the whole concepts of liberalism, speaking about liberty. We have the issues around conservatism, which is, of course, associated with parties to the right. And then we have issues around concepts like, socialism and nationalism. Socialism, basically looking at um, political economic systems where um, the resources and means of production are commonly managed by the state for the people. So there are different, ideologies that define a political party. I know that in this very cohort we have people assigned to different political parties. So it's important to understand that there are ideologies that define parties, and so it's also your responsibility to seek out what ideology defines the party to which you have been assigned. So those are things that you need to seek out and understand better. And again, it's also important to understand that this party ideology influences the policies of government and also influences the platforms that people eventually belong to. Conservatism, as associated with the rightist party, believe in free markets, okay, and all of that. So all of this will define and shape policies and also determine what platform that people join. So what do political parties do? From all that we've said, clearly, political parties solicit and articulate public policy priorities, civic needs, and of course, problems. They socialize and educate voters and citizens in the functioning of political and electoral system and the generation of general political views. This again can be contested because for some of us who have been around, you quite agree with me that you hardly find political parties providing political education to the Nigerian people. So we do not have that. And it is for this reason that the Electoral College was established to actually fill in the gap in providing political literacy to the teeming population of the Nigerian people. And you will agree with me that this had actually gone ahead to impact significantly, in the knowledge, the awareness that the Nigerian people have today about our political systems. And then political parties are supposed to balance opposing demands and converting them into general policy. What that means is that where you have opposition parties, you definitely will have alternative to policy formulations by the government of the day. What the ruling party is supposed to do is to take those opposing party policies, okay, those alternative views, and turn them into policies that the ruling party can actually implement. But this is not the case here, okay? The ruling parties see the opposition political party as toxic, acidic, and more like working against them to fail. But criticizing or critiquing government's actions is very important. For instance, we all witnesses to the recent exercise of the powers of prerogative of mercy by the government of the day, which has drawn significant backlash from civil society. what has happened? Not only civil society, the Nigerian people. Now, what has happened is that we're beginning to hearing flip-flops from government that whole exercise is being reviewed. This is the first time we are hearing this. So if they had sought public opinion before going through this process, if they had conducted due diligence before announcing that clemency that was granted some of these people, they would have done the right things. But that was not done. And now here is the voice of opposition against the exercise of the executive powers of the president to grant clemency to uh, uh, convicted people. So that's basically what opposing political views does. And then political parties are supposed to activate and mobilize citizens. Again, we said this hardly happens, but during campaigns, you see political parties going around mobilizing for votes and all of that. And then they're supposed to channel public opinion from citizens to government and then recruit and train candidates for public office. Now, there are things I call operational imperatives for every political party. And every political party must observe these imperatives because they are the basis for which our democracy is founded. Any attempt to neglect them will be working against the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. For example, there are issues like freedom of organization, okay? The issues of freedom to stand for election, freedom of speech and assembly. These are operational imperatives that every political party must observe. So what it means is that within every political party, there is what we call internal party democracy. That internal party democratic culture must recognize the rights of people to speak freely. It must recognize the rights of people to fair and peaceful competition within the party. It must recognize that, there is inclusion. No one is excluded from participating in political party activities or in offering oneself to serve in public office. So there must be a level playing field for everyone. And political parties must also provide access to media for fair reporting to be guaranteed. So this is very important so that the media can mirror what goes on within the political party and can actually say that there is fairness within that political party and that party actually observe the operational imperatives as included within their constitution in observance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And above all, there has to be transparency and accountability in managing political party financing. And this is very, very important. Now, political parties are very essential institutions of democracy. I think we have said this over and over and over. And they compete in elections and offer citizens a choice in governance. So talking about choices is also the reason why Nigeria opted for a multi-party, democratic system where citizens will have the options to choose from any of the political party who they prefer to serve them. But what we are having today doesn't seem to look like it, as it were. We hope that come 2027, we will have a free space and an opportunity to actually elect leaders of our choice, not necessarily what is imposed on the people by the very toxic policies of government, which has not really allowed for political parties to strive in Nigeria. And then participation of citizens in political parties also offer very unique benefits in terms of influencing policy choices and engaging political leaders who plan to run for office. Now, it's also important to know that in some countries, including Nigeria, there is hardly respect for the rights of the citizens. So let's not go too far, even here in Nigeria. And that's why we are providing this education so that people can begin to demand, for their rights. We must understand that um, vigilance is a very important price that we have to pay for in every democratic dispensation. It's a eternal vigilance is very important. And the only way that you can be vigilant is if you are knowledgeable about your rights, if you understand the political system in which you live in and operate. So that's only when you can be vigilant. Okay. And now, in terms of party management, political parties, of course, are guided in its structure and function by the following. We have the party constitution and manifestos, and which, of course, are an embodiment of the ideologies of the political parties. We have the codes of conduct for members. We have conventions. Conventions are like previous agreements, resolutions, or regulations, party standing rules, and extant guidelines. All of these come together to form what you call conventions by which the party is governed. And then we also have customs. This, of course, is rooted in culture. If you have a political party like the maybe political party that is regionally based, like maybe from the north, you will imagine that the culture of the people, to some extent, or to a large extent, will of course influence certain things in the party. So that's why we talk about culture, and some of the customary things within political party has to do with procedure, practices, and of course consensus. What are those things that are agreed to be the protocol by which the party should be managed? So they all form the customs. And then we have judicial pronouncements. Judicial pronouncements enrich the basis for party management. They constitute also the laws by which the parties are managed. And then electoral laws also provide for how parties should behave, how parties should function, what parties need to do. For instance, if party must hold primaries, they must notify INEC, there must be a time frame and all that and so on. So those are things that are provided for in the electoral laws. And of course, the constitution of the country, which is the ground norm, is the overall guiding document by which every institution of state is administered. And that's why declaring its supremacy, the Constitution clearly said that if any other law is inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution, that other law shall, to the extent of that inconsistency, be null and void. That is establishing the supremacy of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And it means that political parties' constitution must conform with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, in terms of political party financing, now let me say that this very cohort is a prime beneficiary of some reviews that have been made. The political spectrum I showed earlier was not part of what was presented to a previous cohort. It was a modification as I continue to look at some texts and recent studies that were done. And all of these also came from recent reviews on party financing. And this is based on some questions that have been asked in previous cohorts. So I've included this so that we can, all have an idea. And this was a study done by Babayo et al. Published in 2018 on political party financing and corruption in Nigeria, Fourth Republic, the case of 2015 general elections. And Babayo and co found out that in terms of party financing, this is how a lot of the Nigerian political parties were being financed. We had like 20% funding for the political parties come from, godfathers. We have 7% of the funding come from grants from the political parties itself. And then we had another 7%, which comes from sale of funds during elections. We have donations, other donations, which of course comes from both party members and non-party members. We have some philanthropists in the society, some business moguls who contribute to the political parties, and they were able to sum up to 17% of party financing. And then we had the major part of it comes from personal and private contributions, which makes up 36% of party financing. And then we have a whooping 13% that comes from loots from public treasury. And very interesting, I mean. And this, of course, I will explain this, my perspective, and based on, my knowledge of how the system works. So when political party comes on board at the national level, for instance, okay, you have like the APC. The APC appoint board members. It appoints chairman of board and board members. Okay. It appoints director generals and CEOs of agencies of government. It appoints the MD of NNPC. It appoints MDs of very lucrative government institutions. And it is by this appointment that the ruling political party oils the wheels of the machineries of the party. And then the governors that are elected at the state level also constitute another major source of funding to the political parties. So that's why you have, those who have been appointed working so hard to amass resources that they can contribute to the party. That's why the ruling party is usually very, very strong, whether at the national or at the sub-national level, which is the state. And that's basically what Babayo and Co. were, had put together here. So that speaks to party financing. Now, very quickly, I want to delve into political party structure. Now that we've dealt with the history of political party, we have an understanding of what political parties are. We understand how political parties generate their resources. Now we can look at the structure. So with all of those that we've had, the structures are basically what we truly know. We may not have put that into consideration, but now we're here. Critical structures of a political party are as follows. Every political party has a ward executive, ward congress, local government executive, local government area congress, senatorial districts, executive, senatorial congresses, and these structures are unique to political parties. So it may not necessarily be that all of this exists in all political parties. The political parties set up structure based on their ability to fund and maintain and manage those structures. And you have that down to the National Working Committee, the NEC, which is the National Executive Committee, the BOT of the party. In some cases, you have the National Caucus, and then you have what you call the National Convention of the party, which is the highest structure, the highest organ in terms of decision-making of the political party. Now, I'll pick just a few because of time. My sincere apologies because we're going to cover everything we need to cover. I have a flight to catch for 7 o'clock, so I need to go and check in and, board. So now, let us look at some structures of the political parties. All of these are what you call the structures of the political party. And if you look around the Nigerian space, take the APC, which is the ruling party. You have the NEC, it has the National Working Committee, it has the BOT, it has a national convention. In addition to this, it also have the state working committee, it has the state executive council or committee, and then it has the state party congress where the governors are elected. Don't forget that the governors are not elected at the national convention. The governorship candidates, rather, the governorship candidates are elected at the state party congress. It is only the national working committee members, that is the national officers of the party, and the presidential flag bearer that is elected at the national convention of the party. So let's pick the very basic unit of the political party. That is the World Executive Committee. The World Executive Committee administers the party at the world level. They raise funds for the party at that level. They do membership drive for the party at that level. They draw up strategies and political campaigns for the party, mobilize voters for the party at the world level, implement the decision of the World Congress and other organs of the party. They receive the World Auditor report and perform such other functions as may be in the interest of the party and as may from time to time be assigned to them by a higher organ of the party. Now, it's important to know this. Whereas we have the World Executive Committee at the world level, there is what you call the World Congress. The World Congress functions more like the legislative arm of the party. And the World Congress is bigger than the World Executive. So the World Congress directs the activities of the World Executive. Why so? The reason is simple. Because the World Congress consists of all elected political office holders. Elected political office holders, not party officials. Political office holders who may be from that particular ward. And it also includes registered members of the party, and they meet once a year. What are their functions? Basically, they receive the reports of the officers of the ward, that is the ward executive. So they report to the Congress. They receive auditors' reports. They approve the budget of the ward. They elect members of the World Executive. So the World Congress is the forum where the World Executive are elected. That is why the World Congress is bigger than the World Executive and also approves the activities of the World Executive. It conducts the primaries for the world elections and carry out such other functions as may be in the interest of the party. Now that is the world. Now, beyond the ward, you have the Local Government Executive Committee. This one functions at the local government level, okay? And they administer the party at that level, raise funds, do similar things that the World Executive does, and do even much more. And they undertake general administration of the party at the local government level, okay? So the local government executives perform all of these functions. Now, we also have the local government area congress, which is also bigger than the local government executive committee. The local government area congress is composed of the following: the local government party chairman and other members of the local government area executive committee of the party, all the national, zonal, and state executive committee members of the party who are from that local government. So if you take AMAC, for instance, and you have elected officials at the, okay, AMAC, FCT is very unique because it has only one senator, for instance, and you have just the Minister of Federal Capital Territory. Let's take a state like Nasarawa State that is close to us here. There are many local governments, and you have people who are serving at the national level. So you have senators representing the senatorial zones. You have House of Representative members. Now, what happens is that all elected officials, including appointees of government at the federal level, who are from maybe total local government area of Nasarawa State, will become automatic members of the total local government area congress. That's basically what I'm trying to, paint here. And you can see by that allusion, That makes the Congress bigger than the local government executive. So, and then you have elected local government council chairman and the vice chairman who are from that local government. And then all of the councillors, state house of assembly members, including national assembly members who are from that local government. So they are also part of it. So you can see it's a bigger platform. And what are their functions? They elect the members of the local government executive committee of the party. They also elect the local government council chairman candidate for the party. They also elect the local government party delegates to the national convention. There are delegates that go to the national convention for the election of the presidential flag bearer of the party, and also for the election of the national executive, national working committee members of the party. Those delegates come from here. They approve the budget of the party at the local government level and receive local government auditors report. So that's the representative example I'd want to give about the structure of the party at this level. And then you can have senatorial and all of that and so on and so forth. But let me go to another very important structure before I jump to the national. That is the state level. At the state level, you have what we call the state caucus, you have the state elders forum, and this of course depends on the political party. You have what you call the state party congress, which is also like the local government area congress, which is also like the world congress. It serves as the legislative arm of the party at the state level. Now, it is at this state party congress that the governorship candidate of the party emerges to run for the gubernatorial elections. So it is at the state party congress that the gubernatorial candidate emerges. Secondly, it is at the state party congress that the state's working committee members are also elected. That is how important party structures are. And you can't have a state party congress if you have not done your ward elections, you have not done your local government elections, you cannot jump and have your state party congress. No, no, no. It doesn't work that way. It begins from the cellular level, from the unit level, down to the state. And then before you now have the national convention, which is like the grand finale of all political activities. And then the next thing is elections. So that's what happens. Again, like others, the state party congress approves budget, elect officers of the executive committee, elect the governorship candidate, receive report from officers of the party, and also receive the state party auditors report. And finally, we have what we call the national working committee of the party. This, of course, includes the national chairman of the party, national vice chairman, deputy national chairman, vice chairman of the party in the regions, secretary, assistant, all of the national officers, they make up what we call the working committee. The National Working Committee has its functions, which of course include the day-to-day running of the party at the national level. And they also advise the government of the day at the national level. Now, depending on the party, you can have a national caucus. It also has its own composition. It also has its own function. That is a national caucus. We also have the legislative caucus. Now, I'll just speak to the legislative caucus briefly. At the National Assembly, there is a legislative caucus. I'm speaking to this because of the importance. So please pay attention. At the National Assembly, in both Senate and House of Rep, there's what you call the legislative caucus. What does the legislative caucus do? Now, when you hear the election of principal officers of the National Assembly, it is the duty of the legislative caucuses. For instance, the legislative caucus of PDP nominates who will become the minority leader of the party, because the majority leader is APC. The majority leadership goes to APC, which is the majority party in the Senate and House of Rep. So for the minority leadership, it is the legislative caucus of the minority party that determines who is nominated and presented to the Senate or House of Rep for election. The same goes for the ruling party. There is a legislative caucus of the APC. They determine who sits in leadership of the Senate and House of Rep. These legislative caucuses also determine who becomes the chairman of committees within the Senate and House of Rep. So you can see that they have very important function. The legislative caucuses also decide on what form of support they will provide to policies of government, to bills that are sent to the House, to appointees that has to be approved by the Senate. So the legislative caucuses decide whether to support a particular nomination or to kick against that nomination. So that's why the legislative caucuses are very, very important. Please, I'll call you back. I'm in a meeting. So, my apologies, please. So the legislative caucuses are very important. They decide a lot what happens in the legislative houses at both the national and the state legislature. And then we have the NEC, that is the National Executive Committee. The National Executive Committee is bigger than the National Working Committee. The National Executive Committee also includes, beyond the National Working Committee, state governors, political appointees, the president, if he's a member of the party, the vice president, the senate president, and other principal officers of the House and government. They make up what we call the executive. So you can see is a bigger policy making organ of the party. And it's a veritable structure of the party, very important in certain decision making. And it also has its function, which is of course convening the National Convention, appointing the Convention Organizing Committee, carrying out the decision and instruction of the National Convention, supervise and direct the work of the party and all its organs, including the national, zonal, state, and local government organs of the party. It ensures that all the organs of the party function democratically and effectively. So it does all of these, initiate policies, it consider appeals on other matters referred to it by the zones or states, make rules for the party discipline, which of course shall be binding on all organs and members of the party. It also makes standing orders for approval by the National Convention. Now you have the Board of Trustees of the party. It has its own composition depending on the political party. And they also have functions that are circumscribed to it. And then we have, of course, the National Convention. Like I said earlier, one of the very important organ of the party or structure of the party is the National Convention. The National Convention is like the supreme organogram of the party. It's the supreme organ, the supreme decision-making arm of the party. It is at the National Convention that the presidential flag bearer is elected. It is also at the National Convention that the National Working Committee members of the party are elected, who become the national officers of the party. It is also at the National Convention that the constitution of the party can be reviewed. And these are the very important functions that the National Convention perform. And it has its own composition as well. And this is usually chaired by the national chairman of the party, who is the chairman of the convention, and other members of the executive committee. Then the president, vice president, senate president, speaker, their deputies, principal officials, both at the Senate and House of Rep, state governors and their deputies, speakers, if they are members of the party, they are all part of that particular structure. So the gubernatorial candidates are also there. So these are very, 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 this is a very, very important organ of the party, and it's very huge. It's usually a very huge platform for actualization of party aspirations. I've talked about the functions, elect the presidential candidate, and it can elect or remove national officers of the party at that level. It's only at that point that national officers can be removed. I'm not saying suspension, I'm saying removed. Now, it raises funds, proposes resource mobilization policy for the political party, and so on. So it's a very important organ of the party, and it makes very far-reaching resolutions and decisions that can impact the party and, of course, the state if the party is the ruling party in government at the time. So we've talked about the functions, and there are other structures within the Nigerian space, and I talked about partnerships. Political parties could come together as in partnerships. You could have mergers. You can also have coalitions like the CUPP, and there are others that you can also think about. So whatever you can imagine that can be done by political parties can also be termed to be structures of that, political parties. So ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for us today. Thank you very much for your attention. And these are some references that we can also look at in the course of our private studies. Thank you. And I'll take a couple of questions before I catch up my flight. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you very much, sir. That was well detailed and interesting. I believe we have our slides, so we can always go back to study. So we have questions. Facilitator will just take few questions. So, okay, Kulilawa, you can go ahead with your question.
All right, thank you so much, Madam. Thank you, our presenter.
I've asked you to unmute. You can go ahead.
Yes. Okay, can you hear me now? Is it clear now? Am I audible, please?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam, and thank you, sir, for that beautiful and very insightful one. This is the first time I'm under this kind of an intensive, and I pay so much attention to this. Thank you so much, sir. My questions are plenty, but we'll just take few of them. And number one, do we really center all in the name of protecting their job or seeking a way to come back to office? To your mind, sir, do you think we really have any political party at the moment that have any ideology whatsoever? That's one. Why do people consider 1993 election, the MKO election, why was it considered free and fair? And why are we not having a repeat of it? Or what can we do to actually have a repeat of this kind of election again? Also, let me just wrap up from here. The BOT chairman, the party chairman, and the president who supersede. And do we really have that well delineation in their powers or in what they can do? And because we've seen over time how the president can just remove and not remove, right? The party chairman, even the BOT. I'm not so sure we have even had any strong BOT like when we during the time of Obasanjo. I know they were very vocal then, but I don't know. Is there really a delineation of their powers and structures among maybe in structure, but for power and who supersede? I'll just keep it at that three. Thank you so much. Even though I have other ones, but I'll keep it at that for others as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Let me begin with the last, who supersedes in the party. So now we operate a party democracy, and there's party supremacy, and that's what that means. So what it means is that at the party level, the chairman of the party is the supreme. He is the leader of the party. I mean, he's the chairman of the party, but what we have in Nigeria is what I'll call an aberration, frankly.
Awesome.
We have a situation where you have a party chairman, and then you have the president, if he's a member of the party, who is seen to be the leader of the party. And then at the state level, you have a similar thing. You have a governor who is seen to be the leader of the party. Meanwhile, you have a party chairman. And the reason why all of this happen is simply because governors want to have a re-election. And because they control the resources of state, by which you see why we talked about party financing coming from
Leads.
the treasury of the state, because the governor, by reason of the control he has over the resources, okay, dictates what token goes to the party and all of that. So he wants to dictate, and he tells you, look, if you can't allow me to dictate, then I can't make the resources available. So you have a situation where that turns out to be the case both at the state and at the national and even at the local government level. But ideally, as much as party affairs is concerned, and looking at all of the functions we have enumerated in the political party structure, the chairman of the party at every level is the supreme, is the final authority. And I'll give you an example. Late Chief Audu Ogbe was a member of the
PDP board of
he was
trustees.
formerly in PDP, and he was a one-time chairman of the party in PDP. One of the altercation he had with Obasanjo at the time was actually because of this kind of thing.
Yes.
Because he would not allow any other person dictate to him how the party should function or what the party should do, giving clearly that those are responsibilities that fall within the purview of the chairman and his executive to act. So what we see currently is an aberration. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be as much as party democracy is concerned. That's one. The issue of MK Abiola, it's forgone for now, as it were. Now, it was the most freest, most credible elections that we've had so far.
Why is that?
In the country. Yeah, because you see, we were transiting from a military regime. The people were tired. Everybody was tired. There's been lots and lots of agitations for military to leave the scene. And after so much dribbling by General Ibrahim Badamos Babangida, which of course was the reason why it was called the Maradona. Okay, Nigerian people were tired. So when that election came, the people rallied around, and don't forget that there were parties that were registered. The government of Babangida banned those parties and set up these two. Nigeria said, okay, no problem. We'll work with the two that you set up. And among the two political parties, Nigerians queued massively behind Chief Enki Abiola, who won that election, only for that election to be nullified again. So those agitations, of course, still persist today because there are people who for a long time held that there has to be a validation until the government of Muhammadu Buhari recognized Chief MK Abiola as the winner of that elections. Now, what we do not know is whether the consequential actions that are necessary for anyone who won an election and is recognized by the pronouncement of the votes of that election will actually affect Chief MKO Abiola. What that means is that we will see among the people who emerge as presidents of Nigeria, we want to see MKO Abiola there. If he's not there, it means so. Of course, he's no more. We wouldn't expect much to happen. But the fact that he was recognized to have won the election is, a milestone that has been achieved. So Nigeria still yearns for credible elections. Look at it. The last elections, INEC went to Chatham House all over the world, everywhere, to proclaim that election results will be transmitted directly from the polling unit to the IREF. That was not to be the case eventually. And the court aided and backed the actions of INEC.
I know.
Meanwhile, in its guideline and in all of its pronouncement, INEC has clearly said election results will be transmitted directly to IREF, but that's not the case. So, and the only reason why that happened was because of manipulation of that electoral process, and which of course is what we have seen today. So I can tell you for free, there is a legitimacy question on this government, because you see, and any other government that has emerged, whether at the state level, there is a legitimacy question because of how they had emerged from the electoral process. So I'll leave it at that. We're still here and we're hoping that the 2027 elections will be better than what we had in 2023.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. That can only be a
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Ibrahim, I've asked you to unmute and ask a question.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, our facilitator.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for this elaborated presentation regarding party and party structure. Thank you very much, Doctor, for this wonderful presentation. This is the knowledge that Nigerians need, most especially in the ward level, because the ward party level is, I think, is the supreme, not the national, because that's where the structure is being kickstarted. So my question is, listening to your presentation, I get to notice that all the party officials or party member structures is, I think, what I understand, maybe you can clarify me, is they are being nominated or referred. It's like they are referred people, that they are being nominated or appointed, not elected. Because from what you are saying is that is somebody of the party that can elect or nominate, have the power of nominate. Because this thing happens in my state, Bauchi State, like as an example. In my House of Representatives party primaries in 2023, when the candidate of the party noticed that the delegates of the party will not vote for him, so he used the political power as a stakeholder, or I don't know the level of the because you mentioned it, National Working Committee, NEC, NUWC. I don't know which level he is in the party. He used that to change the delegate within some hours, which leads him to win the election. But in the general election, we vote him out. We lose the election. But he used that to stop credible candidates from getting the ticket of that political party. So, is there any platform that we can make it in a such a way that the party supreme in the party, like the elected officials, the governors, the current House of Reps and the Senate around the seat, doesn't have any influence in making that delegates to be delegate? Let the parties talk together. That's my question number one. My question number two, in the financial sector, you talk about that partnership, merge, the governors giving funds to the party so that the party should sustain. Can we have a cluster or a space that the party will be getting their fund independently, not depending on this source of money that I think it leads to the weaknesses of the party. Because these things, I think, and that's my second question. Then my last question is in the electoral process of this stage of the national working committees, the BOTs, the NWC, the NEC, and the part level of the world congresses. These people, they brought people that they don't know even to write their name, just to write their name. They write to write their names, they cannot even fit write them. They just brought them there to fill that gap for them. Whenever they need them, they will come. You that you went to school, you are in the party, but they will not even give you space to be part of that so that you can vote for the person that the general masses will vote. Because I noticed that the major issue of Nigeria, there are two. One, the Nigerians, we are not patriotic. That's one. We don't have patriotism in our mindset. So we are not putting Nigeria first, or our state first, or local government first. The second issue is the party, because we have two types of election. We have primary election and secondary election. So in the primary election, the general masses cannot participate. So we allow people to elect anyhow. A person that did not know how to write his name is the one to elect a candidate for you to vote in the general election. Definitely he will vote a candidate that doesn't know how to write his name for you in the general election. So as a party leader, as a facilitator, and as a political guru, what advice are you going to give to the Nigerians, most especially we, the youth, to see that that gap is being filled and occupied? Thank you very much. Sorry for comprising much questions, because I noticed that you are trying to catch up with the flight. Thank you very much, and I wish you safe trip.
Thank you. All right. Very quickly. Earlier I mentioned that eternal vigilance is the price that we have to pay in ensuring that our democracy is sustained and safeguarded. And you can only be vigilant to the extent that you are knowledgeable and you are aware of your rights, your privileges, and your rights even as a citizen. And where you choose to belong to a political party, it's also your responsibility to be politically aware of what is going on in the party and stand. Understand also that politics is local. I'm sure we've heard this, okay, a number of times. Politics is local. What it means is that we must be interested in the governance of our people at the very local level. Now, if you, who is politically conscious and savvy, is not available at the local government, of course, it gives room for all manner of things to happen. That's why they could rig by picking just anybody to represent you. If you look at the last elections, from the primaries that were done, the delegate elections and all of that, it was purely monetized. And we had people who can hardly read or write and who needed to be told what they need to do. And then they are induced with, token, some money, to go ahead to either the state party congress or to the national convention, where very important decisions are going to be made. So that's exactly what happens. So we must be involved in the politics, in the local politics. At the ward level, we need to be very much available at the wards, because if we're not available, anybody will just be nominated and that person will become your voice at that level. So that's one way to ensure that that doesn't happen. That experience you've mentioned. The other factors you've already talked about it, how to, mitigate some of those things that you talked about. You've talked about those ones. But more importantly, vigilance, vigilance, vigilance. And I cannot overemphasize that. That's one. Number two, the issue of party financing. Truly, there are ways that the party can be financed. One, some political parties have been able to raise money from sale of forms, nomination forms. And some of these political parties can actually apply these funds to run businesses for the party. For instance, what stops a political party to have, in fact, those days in ANN, we were looking at having a co-creation hub, okay, a youth-friendly co-creation hub. And we had already started identifying those youth members who were going to function effectively within that co-creation hub. I'm happy that one of the principal person who served under me as the state public secretary in FCT is a member of the board of the Electoral College, Kevin Akoje, who also ran for Senate in Kogi State. He was the one tasked with the responsibility for driving that process. And what that would have done is create an avenue for generating, resources on a sustainable basis for the party. That's one. Number two, what stops a political party from running a business center? What stops a political party from having investments? There are lots of financial assets that political parties can invest in. There are lots of schemes that political parties can invest their resources in to have sustainable financing for the party. Nothing stops a political party from running other businesses, contracting and all of that. Political parties can do that. Political have the resources to do that, so that at the end of the day, they don't have to depend on some, godfather or some governor to come and, give them money before they'll be able to function. The other thing again is party registration forms. For you to become a member of a political party, there is a small fee you have to pay. If you look at the number, for instance, APC price itself to be the largest party in Africa. Okay, if you are the largest party in Africa, we imagine that of 200 million Nigerians, you should be having up to maybe 100 million Nigerians. If you have 100 million Nigerians paying 1,000 naira, do you know how much that is? You are talking about billions of naira.
Yes, yes.
So there are sustainable approaches to party financing. Are we doing it? That's a big question.
Yeah.
That's a big question. That's one.
Yeah.
And then the last of which that you talked about is what was the first question you asked? Was it that of the BOT?
Yeah. The structure of the party.
Okay. So
Delegates.
powers and structures of the party, okay, are circumscribed in the constitution. The powers of the party is as circumscribed in the constitution of the party. And the powers of each of the organs of the party are also circumscribed within the party. So the question now is the leadership of the party ensuring that each organ of the party operates the way they are supposed to operate? Now, that's not something I can do as an external person. It's only those who are within the party that can do that. Whether the APC is functioning at its BOT level, I don't know. I'm not a member of the APC. Whether the state executive is working as it should, I do not know. I'm not a member of the APC. But I've given you how each party is supposed to function within the prescribed provisions within their constitution. And that's typically what should happen. And it is the duty of the party official to safeguard their constitution and ensure that people respect their constitution. It is only then that we can talk about supremacy of the party within the Nigerian space. Ladies and gentlemen, yes.
Sorry, we can't accept the political party's constitution and standing rules. They don't want to give it out. They hide it. Which way do you advise us to get it out so that we can hold them accountable?
Why? Those things they are available. You should demand for them. You should demand for them. If you attend the party congress, raise it on the floor. Raise it on the floor.
Okay.
And I bet you'll be surprised. Many people would look. I was party chairman here, and I recall a time that people asked for the constitution of the party, and we have to make electronic copies available to members because there were limited printed copies. So we have to make electronic copies available. So go to the Congress, at the Congress, when the Congress is meeting, and raise your hand and bring it up as a matter of urgent national importance, and you will be heard. And when you propose that motion, you'll be surprised to see that majority of the people also want to have a copy. So the party leadership will be forced to bring it up. I don't think it's something hidden. The fact is that people don't ask. That's the point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm in PDP, I try it, but they deny. I don't know. They were saying they will give you even the membership of the party for new members to come. They were just from this, transferring from this.
Do that at the Congress. I wasn't a PDP member, but I had PDP constitution.
Okay.
I wasn't, but I had one. So do that
Yeah.
at the Congress and it will be given to you. I know it's available. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Moderator, please, my sincere apologies. I want to request that if there are questions on the chat box, they should be syndicated and sent to me. I will respond to them and send it back to the Electoral College. Please, I have to catch my flight. I'm already running late.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time. We really appreciate it. Class was really enlightening.
Thank you.
All right, sir, safe trip. So end the class here. Thank you, everyone. Your questions will be attended to if they're on the chat box. Okay. So the class ends here. DED, do you have anything for us? Okay, okay. So we're going to end here and enjoy the rest of your day. Have a blessed week as your assignment comes in this new week. Thank you, everyone, and good night.